Welcome back everyone. Let's go ahead and talk about some iPhones that you should avoid in 2021. Now, there's 3 iPhones that I could come up with, but what I'll tell you is that any iPhone that is completely unsupported, and I mean it is completely unsupported, like an iPhone 4, those are givens, those are iPhones you should avoid. But there are still some devices that are kind of supported, kind of not, that I would recommend you to avoid like crazy. Starting off, the iPhone 6, even though this phone stopped at iOS 12, there are still tons of people selling them. I mean, if it's your only option, go for it. But these things are really only getting security updates. And the biggest problem with something like an iPhone 6 is the fact that they're unsupported. There's really no future of it. But also, it is so severely outdated in terms of the body, in terms of the way it feels, and in terms of the performance inside of it, that it really doesn't make too much sense to pick something like this up. I think picking up a phone like an iPhone, SE1 even is a better idea than this, or something like an iPhone 7. The difference between an iPhone 6 and iPhone 7, they are worlds apart, and I would highly recommend you to, if you have the opportunity and you have the funds available, pick up something like an iPhone 7 over an iPhone 6. It's still a decent device and it still looks good, and a lot of people are still selling them, but I would highly recommend you to avoid the iPhone 6. It's just not a good phone anymore, and although it did mean a lot to Apple at one point, it really isn't a good phone for you to pick up in my opinion. Now next up, we do have, surprisingly, this is crazy me saying this, the iPhone 6s. This is another one of those phones where just up until last year, I was pretty much recommending people to pick up. I still thought it was a pretty okay phone, definitely not perfect, but things have changed. And this phone right now, I just probably wouldn't feel comfortable to recommend it to people. I would recommend buying an iPhone SE1 over the iPhone 6s. Even though this phone is a little bit bigger, has a little bit more capability, the iPhone SE1 I think is a better phone than the 6s just from a stability standpoint. And I've owned like 4 different 6s's right now, and it just seems like all of them have issues where like all my 10 iPhone SEs I've owned have been pretty stable and they haven't really had too many issues. So take it as you will, but that is another really massive thing I would recommend you to avoid. The iPhone 6s again meant a lot at one point, but it really just isn't worth it anymore. And I would highly recommend you guys to avoid the iPhone 6s as well. Now finally, we have another one of these devices that's kind of in the same caliber, which is the iPhone 6 Plus. This is another one of those devices that I would highly recommend you guys to avoid. And the main reason for the 6 Plus is because it's the same thing essentially as the iPhone 6, but just bigger. And I think that's cool. I like having a bigger phone. It's a little bit harder to carry around and everything. And it was technically the first iPhone that I used as a main device. But similar to the iPhone 6, I mean, it's outdated. It doesn't have, the latest and greatest chipset or one of the newer ones. It's not as fast. The storage, capacities aren't really that high anyway on these phones. And it just isn't fast. I just wouldn't recommend people to buy it. And it's outdated, so I still see so many of these things being sold all over the place, and if you're just giving a phone to your kid, then I think that's a little bit different. But if you're trying to use one of these phones as an everyday device, I would highly recommend using an iPhone 6 Plus. It just does not make any sense in my opinion, so take it as you will, but that's pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.